Thanks everybody for joining today. Today's topic on the webinar is about Chinese investment into Germany, and I'm joined by Sandra Link, who's a partner in our Frankfurt office. Hi, Sandra.
Hi, Mark. I feel very honored to speak to you today on this exciting topic.
Great. So let's just dive in. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about Chinese investment into Germany. So, I mean, I guess the first question is, you do see a big relationship between China and Germany. You see lots of German investment in China. Is there a lot of Chinese investment also in Germany?
Yes, indeed there is. As you know, China's is Germany's biggest trading partner. So there's a lot of interaction between China and Germany, of course. And as investment follows trade, the trading relationship between the two countries lead to investment opportunities for both sides. The investment kicked off pretty slowly starting in 2006, 2007, but reached a real peak in 2016 with 68 transactions that were only counted by EY doing their research. I think there are a lot of other transactions that have not been reported publicly and that are also to be considered. So we have seen a lot of Chinese investment in Germany in the recent years. It slowed down a little bit starting from 2017. There has been a little bit more restrictions in China at that time, focusing on other industries. So the real estate sector, for example, got a little bit restricted from a Chinese perspective. And there have also been restrictions from the German side. But all in all, I think, as you see, it picked up again in 2019 with smaller transactions. There's always some opportunities for both Chinese and
I mean, I think when people think about the German economy, they think a lot about the automotive sector, but there must be more to the investments than just the automotive sector. What kind of sectors are the Chinese investing in?
Indeed, the automotive sector is pretty strong. And when I started with this, I think 2014, I started doing Sino-German M&A. Most transactions indeed were in the automotive sector. There were also some transactions that you see in the consumer goods sector and other sectors, but automotive was really the focus for Chinese companies. It moved a little bit more into the technology sector. You know about the shortage of certain IT products now for China. And we realize that a lot of Chinese investors are now looking more into these sectors. So we saw investments on computer chips, semiconductor business. This is what happened during the last years, 2019, 2020. Okay. One aspect that is very interesting to see is that both China and Germany, all the mid-size companies are managed often by engineers. So it's quite funny if you follow these negotiations as a lawyer, you look into, you sit at the table with engineers on both parties. And whenever a problem arises, either you go out drinking a beer or you have them talking about a machine. And you can be sure the problem will be solved. Because there is some, despite all the cultural differences between China and Germany, when it comes to engineering, to these mid-sized companies, the structure of these strategic investors, at least, is not so different sometimes from the German companies. And so that's an interesting movement that you see in these kind of negotiations.
So I think people often say, if you want to find a solution, get an engineer involved. If you want the problem to continue, get a lawyer involved.
So we are both in these negotiations.
And so do you think the outlook is, do you expect to see more Chinese investment in the next few years or less, or what do you think is going to happen?
I think it will remain stable through the coming years. I wouldn't expect a big peak due to the economic situation in Germany and the slowdown of the pandemic. But I also see a shift from Chinese investors from the US to Germany, which might give it a bit more speed to the investments into Germany. In last year, we saw some financial investors also who used to invest in tech companies in the US, but now as this became pretty difficult, they look at the European market and they follow up projects there. Originally, we saw the most main investments were strategic investments, but now we saw also financial investments, and with more and more, and that might compensate a little bit for a slowdown of the strategic investments.
Okay, great. Well, thanks very much for your time, Sandra.
Thanks a lot, Mark.